What's going on, guys? Ryan with Jedha Patrol back with another video. Today we're going to talk about 3D printing. I'm pretty excited about this. Let's roll. That's right, guys. Ryan back, another video today. We've got something pretty awesome to talk about, I think, anyways, and I'm super excited for this one. So a little while back, I started looking at 3D printers, and I was looking at different things that I wanted to make in my collection. For example, I mean, Hot Toys has given us these awesome 501st Clone Troopers. We've got the Corsair Guards, and then if you go back, you got Sideshow made some other clones. They've made a lot of clones, and then there's like just different things in the collection that we would like to see companies make, but they don't make, and so we have to wait on them and wait on them and wait on them, and at some point we just give up hope, and you know, sometimes they deliver and most of the time they don't. But one of the things I wanted to try to figure out this year was actually get into 3D printing, and I wanted to talk about some goals I had for that. So one of them being making my own figures, whether it be Clone Troopers, Republic Commandos, whether it be accessories, just different things that I want to make in the collection that, you know, either were made in the past and exorbitantly high priced, or maybe just don't even exist in the scale that we collect here on the channel, the 6 scale stuff. So I was pretty excited when Elegoo emailed me and said, hey, we would like you to check out our new Mars 2 Pro resin printer. And I said, well, that's pretty awesome. I would love to do that. So we're going to do that today. We're going to check out that printer. We're going to print some things and just kind of see how that turns out. In the past, I've looked at filament printers. And one of the things that really bugged me about filament printers was the print lines. And I know there's awesome channels out there doing 3D prints. My buddy Greg Cook does 3D printing like crazy. He's printing like armors and just all kinds of crazy stuff. But I don't have the time to sit there and sand and I just don't have that kind of time. So the filament printers always for me were, while they made awesome large things, the time factor for me for that, I just didn't have the time. So resin printing was kind of where I was leaning towards. With the resin printing, you can actually get ridiculously cool details out of these things in very small pieces. I've got some pretty neat ideas that would work well in the 6 scale collecting community on things I can make. So if you're on part of the Patreon Facebook group, definitely stay tuned for that. We've already talked about a couple things. But there's some items out there that I'd love to be able to make that wouldn't require ridiculous amounts of sanding and prep work and that kind of stuff. And that just might be me being lazy, and also might be me just having a lack of free time to do these kind of things. But my goal for this year is to make some pretty awesome stuff. Hopefully you guys will come along on the journey with me as I learn this process. So I thought today we'd take a look at a 3D print that I made of a Republic Commando helmet. And we'll talk about kind of the process and that goes and how easy it was to make. And let's check out the Mars 2 Pro. All right, so we've got the Elegoo Mars 2 Pro sitting right here, and I've had this for about 2 weeks. And yes, I have gloves for a specific reason. But I've had this for about 2 weeks now. I've been messing with it, maybe 3 weeks, something like that. And I have printed a lot of stuff. If you have followed me on Instagram Lives, or if you're part of the Patreon support group, channel members group on Facebook, you probably already know what I've got going on because we've been talking about it. But one of the things I wanted to spend some time with this thing so I could get to know it a little bit better before I just come on and say, hey, look, this thing's freaking awesome. Which, spoiler, it's pretty freaking awesome. I gotta be honest with you, because one of the things that I may have already said this, but one of the things I did not like about regular PLA or filament printers was the lines and the amount of labor and time you've got to invest in sanding and painting and sanding and painting and filling in gaps and all that kind of stuff. I wanted to minimize that as much as possible. And I got to be honest with you guys, the resin is the way to go for detailed, smaller objects. So a couple of things I've dealt with the Mars 2 Pro. One thing, it's very, very, very easy to use, like extremely easy to use. So I found some files on Etsy. I picked up some files there, downloaded them. I scaled them down. They give you a software called Chi2 Box. And if you've been printing things for a while, you've probably heard of that. It's free software. Downloaded that, scaled everything down to the print bed, which I actually have right here, the right size. And you just export that file on a little thumb drive, pop it right here, and you're good to go. You hit print. It's actually quite simple. Now there are some like setup things you got to do. You got to level out the build plate, different things like that. But for the most part, it is extremely user-friendly and really easy to use. So I actually already have some resin loaded up in here. I'll kind of show you a little bit about this thing. You got this UV protective plate cover you can take off or use on, however you want to do it. It does have, let's see if I can rotate. I've got resin in it right a second because I've been printing things. But if I rotate this around, down back here, it actually has an air purifier right here, which is supposed to suck in that air, run it through a piece of carbon, I guess, if you will, and then purify the air a little bit. Because there is, if you've never printed with resin before, there's a little bit of an odor. It's a little bit of that. I also picked up these. These do not come, they might come with one kit they've got out now. But anyways, I picked these up on Amazon. These are the Elegoo air purifiers. You get 2 of them for like $25 or $30, or maybe even cheaper than that. They're USB, where is it at? Rechargeable, USB, micro USB, rechargeable. It comes with what you need. You charge these up. You can actually put these in the machine while you're running with that on there, and they kind of filter out some of the odors. And these things work really well, actually. I was actually quite shocked on how well these work. It's definitely something you're going to want to deal with if you have a confined space. So that's the first thing that I ran into. I was told about that, but until you deal with it in person, you kind of don't know. Now, it's not like an obnoxious... if you've been painting, that's kind of what it smells like a little bit. If you've been painting a room fresh paint, the only deal is you really don't want to breathe all this stuff in all day long, right? So if you can have a well ventilated place, that would be number one. Now, the way this thing works is very simple. There is an LCD screen on the bottom of this. In fact, I guess I could take this off. Kind of unscrew this guy. This is the vat for the resin. And there is resin in it, so because I'm currently in the middle of building something. So here's your vat. You get some resin. It comes in a little bottle like this. This is what I was using. This is the standard photopolymer resin. So this isn't anything fancy. They got a bunch of different resins. There's that one. You pour that resin in here. On here is an LCD screen. And what happens is the LCD screen actually puts up an image, whatever image file you've got, and literally builds it layer by layer. The UV light actually underneath that LCD screen actually cures the resin. So it builds layers, but it builds it upside down. So if you're used to seeing a filament printer or a PLA, it literally runs around and moves and all that kind of stuff and prints it that way, which is why you get all those lines, right? So the way this works is it actually builds upside down, and it's actually pretty sick. I think I've got a time lapse for you guys to check out with that. It's a pretty cool process. It does take a little bit of time depending on what you're building, right? So the build plate on this one is actually somewhat small. I actually have, if I can, I've got this because I actually have something that I built right there. We just printed this guy right here. So the build plate on the Mars 2 Pro is small, depending on what you want to build, right? So it is 5.5 inches and just over 3 inches, right? So it's not huge. And you can build it tall wise as well. But what I ran into, the very first thing I wanted to print was too large for this. And since I have like negative experience with software stuff, I went and found something that would be a little bit easier. And that's where I came across this Republic Commando armor. So I actually printed a lot of stuff. I'll show you some of those in just a second. This one I actually just printed, just took it off the plate a little bit ago. And this is what it looks like. So I figured I would show this to you guys. But this is what it's gonna look like straight off the build plate. So it's got the supports, and the way this thing works is it actually prints like this, prints upside down. And you can see these supports, it actually hangs. And as this is going in here, it kind of goes up and down, does that thing. But that's what it looks like. So if I have, this is where I'm wearing gloves. I've got a tray here. And for those of you who have experience doing this, I have little to none. I have 2 weeks experience doing this, so I don't claim to be an expert, which I think is part of the cool part about this is I know nothing, and yet I was able to accomplish this. So I do have a little spatula type deal so we can get this guy off the build plate. And I figured I would just show you this. So that's as easy as it is. We'll get you out of here on the other tray. And then I've got some isopropyl alcohol right here. It's going to rinse this thing off. But I want to show you how easy this was. It's actually quite simple. So I'm just going to rinse this off. So after you've got this thing off the build plate, these supports come off way easier than I thought they would. Actually, they were actually quite easy. And so the first time I did this, I'm literally just breaking this with my thumb. The first time I did this, I was afraid I was going to break it, but then I realized, no, this is actually extremely easy. So you hear that little snapping, that's kind of what's snapping the supports in here. Yeah, it's actually quite something. And one thing I noticed, I thought the resin, like the whole section came out just like that, right? And there's a couple little supports in there, and there's a little bit of sanding that needs to be done for those finer supports inside the helmet. I'm gonna rinse this off real quick. And here is our helmet. So this thing is absolutely awesome. So one of the things I really like about this is the lack of obvious print lines, like obvious print lines. So this right here would require, in fact, I've already done one of these, minimal sanding if you wanted to print something like this. Is highly detailed. So I've actually got some other parts. I thought I'd show you this. I've been messing with this now. I bought an air compressor and an airbrush and painting, and I suck at that. So that's a whole nother video. We'll talk about a journey of me messing stuff up when painting, because I completely butchered some things. Let's see here. Here's one of the helmets, the other helmet that I've been sanding and painting, right? So there's that. That's kind of interesting. Again, I'm so much of a beginner on this, it's not even funny. But I do have, I've got so much stuff here. So I've got a backpack for our Republic Commando that printed like solid block of resin, like that's like a pound. I've got armor, thigh armor. I've got chest armor, gauntlets, cod pieces, like the whole thing, right? The whole thing. So all kinds of parts in here that I've been messing with, and I don't know that I've nailed the scale perfectly yet as far as like the size of it, but I gotta tell you, it was just easy. It was just easy. So I am super excited about this. One of the things that I definitely want to do, this is what I'm talking about, my terrible painting. Look how terrible that paint job is. Like I butchered the hell out of that, right? It's not good at all. That's just my lack of skills in that, but I will get better because I'm determined and we're gonna make this work. But one of the fascinating parts of this whole thing was really just how easy it was to do. So I took the files, I scaled them down to what I thought was correct. I put them on the build plate. I had printed the entire armor for the Republic Commando. The backpack, chest plates, thigh armor, elbows, I printed all of it. I want to say I've got about 20 hours of printing, something like this. I printed this helmet this morning. It was 2.5 hours. This was the only thing on the build plate. I definitely could have put more on there, but it was 2.5 hours to print this one helmet. And so the more stuff you can actually fit on there, then you'll have a little bit better use of your time. But I'm already looking into a larger one. So this is one they have right now on Amazon. You can find this very simply. In fact, there's some links down below if you want to check them out. There are affiliate links, by the way. If you buy one, I get like 3 cents or something. So that's awesome. But I'm already looking at a larger one. So they've got one coming out in, they've got the Mars 3, which is a larger build plate. Then they've got one coming out in June-ish, somewhere around there, May, called the Jupiter, which is ginormous. And I'm hoping they pick one of those up. It's pricey, but but for the stuff I want to do in my collection, in my room, I think it'd be cool. So I want to build, and I might need a couple of these, but I wanted to make like a 6-scale clone trooper barracks. I think that would be pretty sick. I have some ideas for changing up stands, like dynamic stands or diorama stands for 6-scale figures. So I've got some ideas for that. And some other side projects that I want to work on. Yeah, I think this is really going to be advantageous to have. So I think the smaller one is perfect for stuff like this. If you were doing 12th scale stuff, like this is perfect. The Mars 3 is a little larger print build plate, and then obviously the Jupiter, which is massive. They got a bunch of them. But I think my fascination with this has got to be with the lack of print lines. I mean, it's not 100% smooth, but compared to a PLA printer, filament printer, it's like 100 times better. It is so cool. So I'm a big fan of this thing, but I'm gonna have some fun printing this. I would like to hear from you guys. What would you print if you had one of these? So I'm starting with the Republic Commando Trooper. I've got some ideas on how to get like LEDs in there so the helmet lights up, the visor and all that kind of fun stuff. So I'm working on that. Obviously I've got some other projects that I want to work on that have to do with just accessories, like making your own 6-scale accessories. That would be pretty sick. So I'm working on that. And yeah, we're just going to have some fun building some things. So Elegoo, thank you for sending this over for review. I've had a lot of fun with this thing actually. So, and I've been running it like crazy. My wife goes, "Are you done printing?" And I'm going, "No, I'm not. I'm just having a lot of fun with it." So check them out, guys. If you're one of these, if you have questions, I will answer what I can. Again, I don't claim to be an expert, but I have learned quite a lot in the past few weeks. Ask me in the comment section down below, or let me know what you think I should make, build, create, whatever on the channel. Love to hear from you guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. See you in the comment section. As always, click what you like. See you next time.